Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott here, and this is part two of my weekend market update for the week ending Sunday, January 4th, 2025. Today, we're going to talk about some of the charts that I'm watching. Again, it's January 4th. My email is marketmripro@gmail.com. My Google group is Top Down Trader, and my website is marketmripro.com. As always, these are for educational purposes only, not investment advice. The intent of the video is to demonstrate the tools of top-down analysis, how I apply them. Trading involves risk. You alone are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should always consult with your financial advisors. I have tools for multiple platforms, but I'm an independent trader. My Google group is called Top Down Trader. Just go to Google Groups, go to all groups, find Top Down Trader. Let us know how you want to be contacted. That's the best way to keep in touch. It's free. You get some discounts along the way, and you can quit if you don't like it. From news and earnings on Monday, we just got ISM and auto sales, and there are no earnings until Tuesday morning. And there are a number of interesting companies here, but the big earnings for this quarter will start the following week when we get Delta and some of the big banks. So let's go look at the charts. So if we look at where this market came from, we'll go to the daily brief and take a second to load, literally. And I like to rank it by 1 day close. Then I go best fit to spread it out. Perfect. I'll do the same thing down here. And I've already done the larger review, so I'm just going to look at a few things and talk about what I think is going on. I will tell you that right now futures are up. And to be more specific, Bitcoin's up over 3%. The Dow's relatively flat. The Nasdaq's up 92 points. E-mini's up 11. Gold is rocketing again, up 91, and the Russell's up a bit, up 1.60. Those would be absolute scores, unless I said percent, like I did for Bitcoin, which is up 3,400. Here shows the performance on Friday, and we can see on Friday that leadership was Bitcoin, but then Russell and the diamonds outperformed the spiders and the Qs. So clearly the market is broadening out, and for many people, that's a good thing. And from a thematic perspective, energy, industrial, material, and utilities. And if you look out over the last few days, some of the big strength has been, and if you look out over the last month, industrials and materials have really been part of the leadership, and they probably both are benefiting from the perhaps move back into data centers. If we look at the themes that are working, uranium, clean tech, solar, China internet, blockchain, digital infrastructure, metals and minings, and semiconductors, I think they all come together in the data center space, and we're going to talk more about that. So that was one of the first things I wanted to point out that I thought was interesting. So one could look at things like the data center ETF, and you can see a breakout. Take out this high. You could probably draw some kind of a trend line through here. Look down here, you got an EMS and a CPR, a gap, volume, breakout, momentum, super strong relative strength and OBV, and you're not extended. Data center looks really good. Another one that looked good, similar picture, is ITA, which is aerospace and defense. Again, cup, handle, kind of high up on the right side for a handle, and a fresh breakout. And you look down below, you got a CPR, you got volume, breakout, and momentum, great relative strength and OBV. And this one is at 82, not extended. So I thought those looked very interesting. And I contrasted that with, and you can pick whatever ETF you want to use. This is MAGS, which is the Magnificent Seven. And these clearly were the big leaders on the way up, but they're no longer going in a 45-degree angle. In fact, at best case, they're consolidating, and worst case, they broke down. And whether you want to look at MAGS, Fang U, which is leverage and looks horrible. FNGS look like the mags. The large cap Fang stocks are breaking down. And that's something that could be concerning, but the markets are broadening out. And XLB, which doesn't have an O in it, of course, materials is leading the way, as is XLI, industrials. And then if I want to look at what markets I think are going to lead the way, this looks like it's getting ready to break out, is we could look at IWM, and I'll show you why I'm excited by it. Pulled right back to the 50, and that's, to me, a very bullish looking candle on decent volume, coming out of a squeeze, not extended. Seasonality looks pretty good, but are we done going down here, and is that a reversal? And those that have watched me for any time know how much I like reversals. When I compare that to the QQQ, very different. Now, the QQQ is in a wedge here, and maybe it's going to pop out and maybe go on to new highs. But right now, I think the Russell and maybe the mid caps might be places to be looking at. Again, this doesn't look good, but look at the day that we had on Friday, up 0.77%. And is this one getting ready to run? I don't know, and I think that's mid cap growth. Let me just look at the other mids before I say anything. Well, we can look at the S&P 400. Oh, what's that going to be in here? Let's see. Haven't figured out all the convention. All right, this is going to do it for me. Somewhere down here is going to be a 400. Let's see if I type in the 400. Nope. Mid caps. S&P 400 ETF Trust, MDY. That looks right. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Pull back and getting ready to break out, kind of like the Russell. So will the mid caps and the small caps start to dominate? We'll soon find out. What else interested me this weekend? Well, when I looked at the stock timing, I saw data center popping up. Okay. And the other one I saw popping up, let's replace quantum with ITA. So I got to thinking, how can I make my tool even better? And both of these have somewhat unusual looking cup and handle type breakouts. So is something happening in these two ETFs that I want to follow? Now, typically when I do my top-down analysis, I go into the JAS layout and I go into top-down. I somehow identify, let's just look at industrials and materials. These are the different industry groups, and there's not one that says data centers. That's unfortunate. So I might rank them by percent and take the top 10. There's aerospace and defense. And I got 225 stocks. I might limit them by $5 and 500,000 shares. Now I got 107. I might rank them by up impulses and just go through what we see. Rare earth metals starting to move. EE, an industrial stock. Now I don't know what this guy does, so I can highlight it. Battery cells for stationary energy storage, mobility, marine applications. All right, we saw clean energy was good. Southern Copper. NB. I don't know what that guy does, so I could go up here. Mining, exploring, smelting, copper. So copper is important. Well, copper wire is important. Rare earth metals, here's another one, MP, and this one is bouncing. Is this going to rotate back into style? But there are some here that probably are tied to data centers. VRT, Vertiv Holdings, being one of them. So we could look at this way to find out the right stocks. But imagine if you're going to come into this soon and you're going to see a list of all the ETFs and their names. And we're going to start with thematic ETFs. So there's a bunch of them, whether it's data centers, space, the automobile industry, which will cross across different industry groups. And when you click on an ETF here, we're going to bring up the holdings. So if you click on 3 or 4 ETFs, you'll get the holdings from each of those ETFs and a way to search through them. I'm very excited by that. We hope to launch that by the end of this week. But right now, as I think about, and go back to that, I'll just go into the key stock timing, because this is basically, I can do whatever I want in this. And if I type in, again, IPA was one that I thought looked good. And data centers, well, I had to do it the old-fashioned way tonight. So I went on the web, I looked up the ETFs, and I found out what their major holdings are. So I'm going to start by looking at data center. And they probably won't have all the things in it that I was interested in. But the first thing is there's a nice long list on data center stocks. And I can see it's missing some of the things like OKLO. I believe this was one of the Bitcoin miners from Australia. And this is one that we talked about ages ago. Critical digital infrastructure and life cycle for data centers, communication, and networks. And this is one that had a massive run up. It's got something to do with the nuclear space. Now, when the data center started selling off at the end of October, this one went backwards. LEU was another one that we traded and talked about in the videos and the live meetings. And it peaked around the same time. What does LEU do? Centrus Energy, nuclear fuel and services. So I want to identify early on those stocks that might benefit from data centers. So here are the components of data center ETF. Let's just go through these very quickly. Adtran, not doing anything yet. AMD, obviously someone's got to make the semiconductors, and a move above the 50 here. Maybe right now that looks interesting. AMT, American Tower Corp. Now, I didn't understand why this was there, but there are a couple that didn't make sense. Arista Networks, getting ready perhaps to break out. APLD, Applied Digital Corporation. Look at the seasonality coming in. It closed above the 50. Look at the CPR volume breakout momentum. Good here on the crossover, the relative strength in the OBV. ARM, another semiconductor manufacturer. This thing's got a long ways to go to be interesting. A10 Network, Broadcom, some of the infrastructure. CALX Technology, I don't know what they do. I just have to hover. Cloud and software platforms, Gigaspire, probably, if I read this all, I'd see something that makes sense for data centers. CCI, I thought this was similar to the AMT, and I didn't understand why it's going to be in data center play. But it's fiber solutions across the country. You're going to need fiber in those data centers. Sienna has been on a big run. Geez, it's been on a run nonstop. CLFD, again, I don't know this guy from Adam. Clearfield, what does it do? Standard and custom passive connectivity for fiber to premises, enterprises, and OEMs. All right, more about connectivity. CommScope Holdings. Well, the list is long. I don't really have time to go through Equix. I don't even know what these guys do, but they show up in all the different ETFs for the data centers. world's digital infrastructure. So you see a lot of stocks that I didn't even know. Fastly, boy, is this setting up nicely on the 50. GDS breaking out, looks beautiful. Um, Micron memory chips. And you look at this and go, how can I buy this? And I agree. It's extended. But the funny thing is, if you look at the technicals, look at the earnings per share growth rate. You've got 8 quarters in a row of triple digit growth rate. You're expecting 835 versus $1.58, triple digit growth rate. It trades at a multiple of 9. I don't get it. This thing's still underpriced. All right. So there are things here. So I think being able to build out and allow us to go in and understand the components of these things may make a big difference. So those are some of the things that are in data center. If I click this, I can see what overall what they look like, and they kind of look like the DTCR ETF, except they haven't broken above their 50 yet. The other one I was interested in was aerospace, and if you remember why, let's just type ITA. These are the ETF. These are the components, and rather than go through all of them, I think you can see there's a lot of green there, and when we look at the chart, it should look a lot like the ETF. It does, just on a compressed factor. But there are a number of things here that looked interesting today. BWXT, not quite above the 50, but it looks like it's getting ready to run, was one thing. But really the one that I like, well, here's Rocket Lab. The space components broke out, pulled back. Looks like it wants to go again. But then the other one, and I had to find the safest bets, probably this guy, RTX. Now, we bought it here. You had a breakout of a trend line, and look at all the blue dots come in, the relative strength and OBV breaking out. But you got a pullback and an opportunity to buy it again. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be looking at tomorrow. Now, I am back to something before. I really wonder what's going to happen with these guys. And I don't think it's a good thing for the markets for these to break down. And when you just run through them, you look at Apple. Well, it's holding. Let's see what it does. It might be okay, but Apple opened here, traded up to here, and closed down here. That is not a strong day. That is a belt hold negative signal. You look at Amazon, and this is Friday, which was not a bad day in the markets. Same pattern. This one I thought it was getting ready to go. It opened, went higher, and closed lower. You look at Meta. Ugh, this one, the luster is off. It couldn't get back above the 200. It broke back down below the 50. You look at Netflix, stuck in a buyout battle for Warner Brothers. Horrible. You look at Google, probably the best of all of them. Holding up nicely here, still very buyable. And then you look at NVIDIA, and it just looks like it's biding time maybe to earnings. So this is not what's leading. It looks to me like we want to be looking at aerospace, space included, and maybe get back on the data center train. Hope you have a great day in the market. I can't wait to release that ETF screener. And for those of you that own my product, you know that all these updates and things that I add are part of your package. So there's no additional fee, just your annual support, maintenance, and data fees will keep you all these updates. The new releases with our new partner we'll be announcing publicly soon. Can't wait to do that. They've already sent out some emails talking about a beta product. Well, I got to know what that product is, and I can't wait for you to see it. Hope you have a great day in the market. And maybe after 2 soft weeks, we're about to get a positive week in the market. At least right now, it looks like we will at the open. Talk to you all later. And if you're interested in my software, the $14.95 price, which includes everything you see here in the program, plus my full suite of indicators for TradingView, where you're able to take a chart here click on the TV and open up that ticker in TradingView with all the same indicators so you can bring in other partner indicators that you might have. All of this is available, and the $14.95 price goes away at 11 p.m. on Monday evening, and we go back to the new price at $26.95. Act now if you want, and we'll see you tomorrow for tomorrow's update. Thanks, everybody.